The Galactic Empire had seen many worlds rise and fall, but none had caught their attention quite like Earth. A new species, the humans, had emerged from their primitive past and were beginning to explore space. The Empire, with its enormous fleets and unmatched power, believed it was time to teach these young creatures their place in the galaxy. They had seen countless species bow to their might, so why would humans be any different? A vast armada of Empire ships moved through space, their engines leaving a trail of stardust as they approached Earth's solar system. The flagship, Regal Ascendant, was the largest ship in the fleet, its dark metal gleaming ominously against the stars. From the command deck, the Empire's supreme leader, Grand Admiral Varen, looked out at the blue planet below, his eyes cold and calculating. "Prepare the fleet for initial contact," he ordered, his voice as smooth and authoritative as the ship's systems. "Once we make the jump to Earth, we will send them our message: surrender or be destroyed." His officers nodded, some with excitement, others with silent trepidation. They had witnessed the destruction of countless civilizations, all too weak to fight back. The Empire was efficient, ruthless, and never failed to get what it wanted. Earth would be no different. Meanwhile, on Earth, humanity's reaction was less than expected. Across the globe, governments and military leaders were scrambling to comprehend the sudden appearance of the Empire's fleet. Some felt fear, others confusion, but none expected what would come next. Inside a military command center in the United States, General Sarah Aldridge watched the news with a puzzled expression. She was one of the most experienced officers in Earth's armed forces, but even she had never seen anything like this before. Huge ships, larger than any building she could imagine, hung like ominous shadows above Earth. They seemed to dominate the sky, their presence overwhelming. "What are we dealing with here?" General Aldridge muttered, staring at the images of the enemy fleet. The Empire's ships were too large, too advanced. How could humans possibly fight such an overwhelming force? As the military scrambled to respond, Earth's leaders convened, each struggling to decide what to do. Some suggested retreating into underground bunkers, others urged for an immediate surrender. Yet in the midst of all the chaos, one young officer, Captain James Tucker, stood up with a grin on his face. "Why not just ask them for a game of chess?" he said, half joking, but with a glint of seriousness in his eyes. The room fell silent. It wasn't that Captain Tucker didn't understand the gravity of the situation, but he had a different approach. Humanity wasn't afraid of the unknown. They thrived on it. The idea of being intimidated by something simply because it was bigger or more powerful was ridiculous. Humans had always found ways to rise above their circumstances. He had no doubt they would find a way to deal with this. "Send them a message," Tucker said, this time with more confidence. "Let them know we're ready for anything, and we don't take threats lightly." The officers exchanged uncertain looks, but soon they all agreed. Whatever was coming, they were going to face it head-on, not with fear, but with the one thing humans always had: their courage, their creativity, and their unshakable determination. They weren't going to surrender, and they weren't going to bow down. If the Empire wanted to challenge them, humanity was ready to give them a show they'd never forget. The vast, intimidating fleet of the Galactic Empire hovered over Earth like a dark cloud. From space, the human cities below appeared as tiny specks, barely visible against the planet's deep blue oceans and green continents. The Empire's ships were the size of mountains, their sleek surfaces reflecting the cold light of distant stars. For the people of Earth, the sight of such a mighty force was enough to make even the bravest pause. But inside Earth's military command center, General Aldridge stood with her arms crossed, staring at the ships on the screen. Her mind raced, but her face remained calm, betraying no hint of fear. "We have to respond," she said firmly to her officers, breaking the silence that had settled in the room. "Captain Tucker, what's our status?" Captain Tucker, a young but quick-thinking officer, turned to face the general. He had been part of the group that decided to respond to the Empire's threat with laughter, but he knew it wasn't all fun and games. The enemy's ships were incredibly powerful, but humanity wasn't known for backing down easily. They were resilient, creative, and determined. "We're ready to communicate, General," Tucker replied. "But I suggest we make our message clear. We won't be intimidated. It's time to show them we're not just another planet to be conquered." General Aldridge nodded. "Prepare the transmission. Make sure the entire fleet knows we're not surrendering." With a few taps on his console, Tucker sent a message across all human ships, warning the Empire that humanity was not about to back down. His tone was firm, but there was an unmistakable hint of amusement in his voice, a small spark of rebellion. At the same time, the massive ships of the Galactic Empire began to close in on Earth, their engines thrumming with power. Grand Admiral Varen's command ship, Regal Ascendant, led the fleet. He watched the transmission from Earth with a sense of disbelief. For the first time in years, he found himself uncertain. Most civilizations in the Empire's path had either surrendered at the sight of their ships or been easily crushed. But these humans, they were responding with laughter. Why are they not trembling? Why are they not begging for mercy? Varen muttered to himself. His officers exchanged confused glances, unsure of what to make of the humans' strange reaction. "We expected them to crumble before us," one of his officers said, looking at the message again. "But they seem confident." Grand Admiral Varen's face tightened with frustration. "This is unacceptable. Prepare for orbital bombardment. They will bow before the Empire. No one dares defy us." On Earth, the human fleet remained unfazed, as a sense of quiet determination spread among the officers. Captain Tucker stood at the front of the room, his face set in a determined smile. He knew the humans weren't about to fold under pressure. This was the moment to show the Empire what humanity was really made of. As the Galactic Empire's ships began to power their weapons, the humans, for the first time in history, were about to show the galaxy that they were no ordinary species. They were ready to face the Empire with a courage that no fleet in the galaxy had ever seen before. The countdown began, but instead of fear, it was met with anticipation. Humanity wasn't afraid of what was to come. They were eager to see how the Empire would react when faced with something they never expected. A species that would not be cowed, not even by their greatest threats. The Galactic Empire's fleet hung motionless in the void of space, a towering force that could annihilate any civilization in an instant. For the Empire, this was a routine. The vast ships, weapons primed, had reduced entire worlds to rubble. But something about humanity was different. Their refusal to bow, their strange reaction to the Empire's power, made Grand Admiral Varen uneasy. He stood on the command deck of the Regal Ascendant, staring at Earth through the massive viewports. The blue planet below had been calm, untouched by the fear that usually accompanied such a powerful display. The humans were too calm, too confident. "We will not tolerate this insolence," Varen declared, his voice low but firm. "Prepare the message. We will show them why the Empire is supreme." He gave a sharp nod to his communications officer, who began to prepare the transmission. The message would leave no room for misunderstanding. Surrender or be destroyed. No more games. The time for laughter was over. Back on Earth, General Aldridge watched the incoming transmission from the Empire. She sat quietly at the head of the command table, her hands folded in front of her. The message from the Empire was loud and clear. Surrender now, or face annihilation. Her lips curled into a smile. This wasn't the first time humanity had been underestimated. The response to their first message had been met with mockery and laughter from the humans, but now, with the threat of destruction looming, General Aldridge knew it was time to act. Captain Tucker stood beside her, his grin wide. "They really think we're going to back down, don't they?" "Not a chance," General Aldridge replied. "But now, it's time to show them just how wrong they are." Tucker turned to the officers around the room. "Prepare our response," he said with a wink. "Let's give them a taste of their own medicine." The humans had already shown they weren't afraid. Now they would show the Empire just how much they had underestimated them. Captain Tucker, ever the tactician, had come up with a plan that would throw the Empire completely off balance. Send them a message back. Make it clear that we don't take threats like theirs seriously. Let's make it interesting. General Aldridge leaned forward, her fingers tapping thoughtfully on the table. I want them to know they're not dealing with just any species. Send a message full of humor, but leave no doubt we're standing our ground. A few moments later, the response was sent. The message to the Empire was simple. Surrender? You're too late. We've already decided to stay. The humans' message was filled with sarcasm, playful mockery, and just a touch of defiance. The Empire had threatened them with annihilation, but humans weren't afraid of being threatened. Instead of trembling in fear, they'd laughed. And now, they were sending a response that would make the Empire's leaders question everything. As the message was broadcasted back into the depths of space, General Aldridge could feel a sense of satisfaction. This was humanity's way. They were not just survivors. They were fighters, full of courage, wit, and a willingness to face the impossible with nothing but their resolve. In the cold vastness of space, the Galactic Empire's commanders were about to learn a lesson they would never forget. The Galactic Empire had never experienced anything like this. Their enormous warships, each one a symbol of overwhelming might, were poised above Earth. Yet, in response to their demand for surrender, humanity had responded not with fear, but with laughter and bold defiance. Grand Admiral Varen could hardly believe it. He stood in front of a massive screen showing the Earth below. His officers, who had spent years conquering worlds, were now scrambling to make sense of this strange reaction from humans. Their transmissions were not begging for mercy or pleading for their lives. Instead, they were filled with mockery and lighthearted defiance. Are they mocking us? One of Varen's officers asked, his voice tight with disbelief. How could they be so foolish? Varen clenched his fists, his sharp features tightening in anger. They are underestimating us. This ends now. He turned to his communication officer. Send them a warning. They will regret this foolishness. Prepare the weapons for full deployment. But back on Earth, the mood was very different. General Aldridge watched the Empire's response with a wry smile. She didn't have the same fear as her counterparts. Instead, she had a deep confidence in humanity's resilience and creativity. We knew they would react this way, she said calmly. Now we need to turn this situation to our advantage. Captain Tucker, I trust you have a plan. Tucker grinned, the kind of grin that showed he was about to do something unpredictable. Of course, General. But this time, we won't just make a response. We'll turn this into a demonstration of what we're really capable of. General Aldridge raised an eyebrow, intrigued. Go on. Tucker tapped a few buttons on his console, pulling up images of the Empire's warships. I've been studying their ship configurations. They're designed for brute force, but not for flexibility. They don't expect anything creative or out of the ordinary. Let's give them something they never saw coming. The human fleet, though smaller and less advanced in raw firepower, had something the Empire didn't. Adaptability. Tucker's plan was simple. Use human ingenuity to create chaos for the Empire, forcing them into a battle of wits rather than strength. Let's have some fun with this, Tucker said, a mischievous glint in his eyes. We'll deploy a series of holographic decoys. Simultaneously, we'll send out some strange energy readings to confuse their tracking systems. Let them think we've gone rogue, that we've become unpredictable. A few of the officers exchanged unsure glances, but the general nodded approvingly. Let's do it. We've already shown them we won't be intimidated. Now, we'll show them that we don't need to rely on brute strength to win. With Tucker's orders, the human fleet sprung into action. Holographic decoys of human ships blinked into existence in different parts of the battlefield. Meanwhile, the human ships created false energy signatures that scrambled the Empire's sensors. The decoys mimicked the movement of real ships, pulling the Empire's warships into false positions. From the Empire's perspective, chaos ensued. Ships that had once been perfectly organized were now caught in confusion. The humans were no longer just a species to be crushed. They had become a riddle that the Empire had no answer for. Captain Tucker's voice crackled over the communication system. Let them chase shadows. They won't know what hit them. And for the first time, Grand Admiral Varen's confident expression faltered. The Empire wasn't facing just any species. They were facing humanity. And now, they were beginning to realize that the real danger wasn't their firepower. It was the humans' unpredictable creative nature. The Galactic Empire's once pristine ships, known for their power and dominance, now floated helplessly in the void. Grand Admiral Varen watched as his fleet's advanced weapons systems failed to lock onto the human ships. His officers were scrambling to adjust the targeting systems, but nothing seemed to work. The humans had turned the battlefield into a chaotic mess. On the command deck of the Regal Ascendant, Varen clenched his fists. This can't be happening, he muttered. These humans should have folded by now. Why are they resisting like this? His eyes flickered to the large screen in front of him, showing Earth in the distance. The human ships, though smaller and weaker in firepower, were moving with surprising agility. They seemed to vanish and reappear, creating the illusion that they were everywhere at once. It wasn't just their technology that baffled the Empire. It was their strategy. It was unpredictable, unlike anything the Empire had ever faced before. We've detected multiple energy signatures, one of Varen's officers reported, but they keep shifting. It's as though their ships are phasing in and out of existence. Varen's face twisted in frustration. Deploy more probes. We need to track them. But the humans were already one step ahead. Using their decoys and false energy readings, they were causing the Empire's advanced tracking systems to malfunction. The Empire had underestimated the humans' ability to adapt and fight back with creativity. It wasn't just a battle of weapons anymore. It was a game of wits, and the humans were winning. Meanwhile, on Earth, General Aldridge and Captain Tucker stood in the command center, watching the unfolding chaos with growing satisfaction. The human fleet, despite being outgunned, was holding its own and forcing the Empire into confusion. Are they really this blind? Tucker said with a laugh, shaking his head in disbelief. I thought they were supposed to be the masters of space. We've shown them that we don't need to follow their rules. General Aldridge replied with a smirk. The Empire's power isn't everything. If they can't adapt, they'll lose. Tucker pressed a few buttons on his console. Time to turn up the heat. Let's make sure they never forget who they're dealing with. With that, the human ships began to implement a new tactic. While the Empire's fleet was caught in the chaos of the decoys, the real human ships surged forward, executing complex maneuvers that the Empire's ships couldn't anticipate. The human fleet darted in and out of position, using speed and surprise to strike at weak points in the Empire's formation. To the Empire, it was as though the humans were everywhere at once, too fast and unpredictable to track. The massive warships of the Empire, which had once seemed like unstoppable forces, now appeared slow and clumsy in comparison. Their once precise weapons systems couldn't target the elusive human ships, and for the first time, the Empire's leaders began to feel something they hadn't in centuries: uncertainty. Grand Admiral Varen gritted his teeth, watching his fleet falter under the unexpected assault. We can't keep up with this. How are they doing this? He growled. The Empire's mighty armada, once the terror of the galaxy, was struggling against a foe they had never imagined, one that used cunning and unpredictability as their weapon. The Empire was in disarray. It had underestimated humanity, and now, for the first time, it wasn't sure if it could win. The humans had turned the tables, and there was no telling what they might do next. Grand Admiral Varen paced back and forth on the command deck of the Regal Ascendant, his mind racing. The humans were doing something he couldn't explain, something that was disrupting the entire battle. Their ships, small and seemingly underpowered, had become a complete mystery. With their unpredictable movements and clever decoys, they were making the Empire's vast, technologically superior fleet look like amateurs. "This can't continue," Varen muttered to himself. He gripped the edge of the command table and glared at the holographic display. His officers were still frantically trying to get a fix on the human fleet, but every effort was met with failure. "How are they doing this?" one of his officers asked, her voice filled with confusion. "Shut up and keep trying," Varen snapped. His patience was wearing thin. He had never encountered a species like this, one that refused to fall in line when faced with certain defeat. They're not just fighting with their weapons. They're fighting with their minds. They think they can outsmart us. He turned to his weapons officer. "Prepare the heavy artillery. We'll show them who's in charge." While the Empire scrambled to regain control, the humans continued their unconventional tactics. Captain Tucker and General Aldridge watched the ongoing chaos from Earth's command center. The human fleet was on the move again, implementing a new phase of their plan. "We can't just keep hiding in the shadows," Tucker said with a confident grin. "It's time for something more bold." General Aldridge raised an eyebrow. "What do you have in mind, Captain?" Tucker tapped his console, bringing up a map of the Empire's fleet. He pointed to a vulnerable area in their formation, a section that seemed less guarded. "We're going to take advantage of the fact that they're so focused on their firepower. We're not going to fight them with more firepower. We're going to fight them with speed, agility, and something they never saw coming." The plan was simple but daring. Human ships would launch a direct attack on the Empire's central command ship, Regal Ascendant. It was risky, but if they could make a direct hit, the Empire's entire command structure would collapse. The Empire's leaders were too reliant on their technology, too comfortable with their power. They never imagined that the humans, outgunned and outnumbered, could land a blow where it hurt most. "Are you sure about this?" General Aldridge asked, watching the human fleet make their final preparations. She trusted Tucker, but the stakes were high. "This could be our only chance." Tucker smiled, his eyes gleaming with determination. "It's not just our chance. It's our opportunity to prove that the Empire's power means nothing if they can't keep up with us." The human fleet began to move, cutting through the chaos of decoys and fake signals. The Empire's sensors were still malfunctioning, and Varen had no idea what was about to hit him. The human ships, now regrouped and focused, darted towards the Regal Ascendant with lightning speed. The Empire's commanders scrambled to react, but it was too late. The humans had already reached their target, striking fast and hard. It wasn't a massive weapon that made the difference, it was their strategy. Their ability to think outside the box, to see angles no one else could, was now their greatest weapon. As the human ships moved in, General Aldridge watched with a sense of excitement. "This is what humanity does best," she said. "We don't need the biggest guns, we have the power to surprise." For the first time, the Galactic Empire felt a real sense of fear. They had underestimated humanity's strength, and now they were about to learn that the greatest weapon of all was not firepower, but human ingenuity. The battle between humanity and the Galactic Empire had turned into a chaotic spectacle. The humans, once thought to be powerless in the face of such overwhelming might, were now on the offensive. Their tactics, full of surprise and unpredictable maneuvers, had caught the Empire completely off guard. What was supposed to be a routine conquest had become a nightmare for Grand Admiral Varen and his fleet. On the Regal Ascendant, Varen watched in disbelief as human ships, fast and agile, continued to dance around the Empire's much larger, slower vessels. They didn't just dodge fire. They were getting in close, striking the Empire's ships at weak points, then disappearing into the chaos. It was as though the humans had mastered the art of battle without ever firing a shot. "How are they doing this?" Varen muttered to himself, his face tight with frustration. His fleet had never faced a threat like this before. Their advanced weaponry and tactics were useless against the humans' creativity and speed. His officer turned to him, her voice filled with growing concern. "Grand Admiral, Their ships are everywhere. We can't track them. They're using some sort of cloaking technology. Varen shook his head. No, it's not cloaking. It's something else. They're just too unpredictable. He clenched his fists. I won't let them humiliate us any longer. Prepare the fleet for a full assault. But even as Varen barked his orders, the humans were already one step ahead. General Aldridge and Captain Tucker watched from Earth's command center, their faces filled with satisfaction as they saw the Empire's grand fleet struggle to keep up with their ships. They're falling apart, Tucker said, watching the Empire's formations break up under the constant pressure from the humans' guerrilla tactics. They thought we'd crumble the moment they showed up. Now they don't know what to do. General Aldridge smiled. It's not about having the biggest ships or the most powerful weapons. It's about being able to outsmart your opponent. The Empire can't handle unpredictability. They've never had to. The human fleet, though smaller, was full of fighters who thought outside the box. It wasn't just their technology that had given them the upper hand. It was their ability to think creatively in the heat of battle. They knew how to make the Empire question everything they had taken for granted. As the battle raged on, it became clear that the Empire was losing. The once feared warships of the Galactic Empire were now scattered and vulnerable. The humans weren't just surviving. They were thriving, using the Empire's own arrogance against them. In the cold, dark expanse of space, the human ships continued their hit-and-run tactics, outmaneuvering the Empire's vast fleet. The Empire had failed to consider one crucial fact. Humanity was not like any species they had faced before. They had underestimated the power of human ingenuity, creativity, and most importantly, human resolve. Varen's officers began to whisper nervously, their once confident voices now filled with doubt. They're too fast, one said. We can't track them. We can't stop them. The sound of panic in their voices was a sharp contrast to the calm and focused determination on the faces of Earth's commanders. The humans had made their point. They had proven that no matter the size of the enemy or the strength of their weapons, they would never give up. The Empire had underestimated humanity. And now, they were paying the price. The Galactic Empire's fleet was in disarray. What had started as a grand display of military might had quickly turned into a humiliating retreat. The humans, once thought to be helpless and insignificant, had turned the tables on the Empire. Their unpredictable tactics and relentless ingenuity had left the Empire's commanders in a state of panic. Grand Admiral Varen paced in front of the command console on the Regal Ascendant, his face a mask of frustration. The once proud fleet of the Empire had been scattered, its ships disabled and its command structure in chaos. The humans had proven to be an enemy unlike any the Empire had ever faced. They were not simply soldiers. They were tricksters, fighters who used their creativity to outsmart even the most advanced technology. We can't keep going like this, Varen growled. We've lost control of the situation. Our fleet is in tatters. His officers exchanged nervous glances. The Empire's pride, once unshakable, was now crumbling before their eyes. The humans had turned what should have been an easy conquest into a nightmare of confusion and defeat. The Empire had underestimated them at every turn. Grand Admiral, one officer spoke up cautiously. Perhaps it's time to call for a retreat. We cannot afford any more losses. Varen's eyes burned with anger, but deep down, he knew they were right. The Empire had pushed too hard, expecting the humans to crumble. Instead, the humans had fought back with more than just weapons. They had fought with spirit, unpredictability, and a fearlessness that had left the Empire's fleet reeling. Back on Earth, General Aldridge and Captain Tucker watched as the Empire's ships began to pull back. The battle was winding down, but there was no sense of victory in the command center. Instead, there was a quiet sense of amusement. They're retreating, Tucker said, barely containing a laugh. It looks like we've won. General Aldridge didn't respond immediately. Her gaze focused on the screens before her. The Empire had underestimated humanity, and now they were paying the price. But the general wasn't one to gloat. Instead, she kept her calm, knowing the real victory was in the message they had sent. "Let them go," she said finally, her voice steady. "We've made our point." A transmission from the Empire's flagship arrived just as the last of the enemy ships made their retreat. The message was short, blunt, and filled with grudging respect. "We concede." The message read, "You have proven yourselves capable. The Galactic Empire withdraws." Tucker laughed out loud. "Well, that's one way to admit defeat. They're finally realizing they messed with the wrong species." General Aldridge didn't share his laughter, but her lips twitched in the faintest of smiles. The Empire had expected humanity to bow down, but instead they had been the ones to retreat. It was a powerful statement, one that would echo through the galaxy for years to come. The human fleet, having successfully defended Earth, sent one final transmission to the retreating Empire. "Thanks for the entertainment. Don't come back unless you're ready for round 2. As the Empire's ships vanished into the vastness of space, the humans were left standing victorious. Not through sheer force, but through their resilience, their creativity, and their refusal to be intimidated. In the end, the Empire had learned the most important lesson of all: never underestimate humanity. And for the humans, this victory wasn't just about surviving. It was about proving that their greatest strength was not in their technology or their numbers, but in their ability to think, adapt, and laugh in the face of impossible odds. The vast expanse of space was quiet once again. The once great fleet of the Galactic Empire, which had threatened to conquer Earth, was now a distant memory, retreating back into the far reaches of the galaxy. The humans had won, not with overwhelming firepower, but with something far more powerful: ingenuity, determination, and the courage to face the impossible. On Earth, the news spread quickly. Cities buzzed with excitement, and people everywhere celebrated the incredible victory. It wasn't just a military win, it was a victory for humanity's spirit, for their ability to overcome the odds when faced with a challenge that seemed unbeatable. Humanity had faced the might of the Galactic Empire, and instead of crumbling, they had stood firm. General Aldridge and Captain Tucker watched the celebrations from the command center. Though the mission was officially over, they both knew the implications of what had just happened. The Empire would never forget this day. "We did it," Tucker said, his voice filled with pride. "I can't believe we actually pulled it off." General Aldridge nodded, but her expression remained calm. This wasn't just about winning a battle, it was about sending a message. The galaxy now knows that humanity won't be intimidated. We don't bow to anyone. Tucker grinned. "I think the Empire is still trying to figure out what happened." A few moments passed before Aldridge spoke again. "What do you think this means for the future, Tucker?" He thought for a moment, then shrugged. "It means we're not just a tiny planet anymore. If the Empire learned anything, it's that Earth is a force to be reckoned with. We've made our mark." And it wasn't just the Galactic Empire that was watching. Across the galaxy, word spread of humanity's victory. Other species, once skeptical of Earth's place in the universe, began to take notice. Some were impressed by the humans' ability to outthink their powerful invaders. Others feared that humanity, now emboldened by their victory, might pose a threat to their own dominance. But for the humans, it didn't matter. They had proven that their strength lay in their minds, not just their technology or numbers. As days passed, the leaders of Earth continued to reflect on the importance of the battle they had just won. There was no rush to conquer other worlds or seek revenge on the Empire. Instead, there was a quiet sense of pride and unity. Humans had faced an unimaginable threat, and instead of crumbling, they had come together and faced it head-on. In the Galactic Empire, the message was clear: Earth had surprised them, and they would not forget it. The loss was not just a defeat in battle, it was a humiliation for a once proud empire that had never expected to meet a species that would stand up to them. As the humans looked to the future, they knew one thing for certain: The galaxy would never see them the same way again. The battle had shown that even the most powerful force in the universe could be outsmarted. And humanity, they would always find a way to fight back, with resilience, creativity, and a bit of humor. The Empire may have retreated, but the story of humanity's victory would echo through the stars, a reminder that no matter how small, no matter how powerless they may have seemed, humans were a force to be reckoned with.